So I think it's incredibly important to understand the organization you're up against, that you work within. And absolutely no one understands the organization of Rafael Reif because that's what he intends. Um, so this is what it was right up until the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. And no one, absolutely no one, would think this is an accurate representation, but it is. Um, so let me go through it piece by piece. This is what is currently, or was that organizational chart for at the time. And this represents responsibilities and it tells you who people are in certain roles. It has no indication of power. None of these people have any power because Israel Ruiz and Rafael Reif have taken all that power to themselves. And understanding that is really important. So this is the second organization chart is the group that reports to Israel Ruiz. And you don't see that on the main page, but the chief of police, information systems and services, campus operations, it's staggering. And no one knew who he was, which is why the Jeffrey Epstein cover up could say this nonsense about three VPs because they didn't understand the role of Israel Ruiz. So Rafael Reif's first move in building his team was to appoint someone who will help tell lies for him. And it was Steve Bratt. And it began with this 2012 article when Steve was just a reporter and he's covering Rafael Reif's appointment as president. And he writes this paragraph. Reif's selection as MIT's next president follows broad consultation with students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends of MIT. Through outreach via multiple channels, a 22-member presidential search committee generated a list of more than 100 candidates for the presidency. So he goes on, and Maria Zuber does this exact same thing. She describes an intake process as if it affects the outtake process. And the outtake process is an entirely fixed deal. Rafael Reif was appointed after the most corrupt, shortest search in MIT history. There was no, so who cares what elaborate lengths they went to? So after that article, Rafael Reif immediately promoted him to the head of the MIT news office. And whenever you see a Steve Bratt article, you know it's like he places these rocks and says, "Here's where I'm hiding something." So whenever you read his article, it's really easy to um, find find whatever nonsense they're trying to say. So we'll come back to that. So another thing about my version is that it has what the other things these two are doing. So Rafael Reif was a director of Schlumberger for 14 years, from 2007 to 2021. And he was paid $4.5 million, and he signed the agreement with Russia for Schlumberger. So that belongs in his masthead so people understand he works for a fossil fuel company. And that company, unlike everyone else, isn't in transition. It's intent on more fossil fuels. And that's where he's worked for 14 years. And he only stopped working there when he was forced to step down through mandatory retirement. Um, Similarly, for Israel Ruiz, from 2011 onward, he was launching his own startup, an architectural firm for prefab housing. So when he's so this is his firm, Woho Systems, and it builds prefab housing. Let me read this because this is relevant for the 10 years that he's in the most powerful position at MIT, and no one knows who he is. Israel Ruiz, co-founder and CEO of Woho Systems, Israel Ruiz is the former executive vice president and treasurer of Massachusetts Institute of Technology. While at MIT, he oversaw the capital renewal and construction program of thousands of residential units and over 2 million square feet of labs and offices, and was instrumental to the real estate development of Kendall Square. He helped grow the university's innovation ecosystem and orchestrated the conception and launch of the Engine, MIT's venture capital spinoff focused on tough tech. So this is his timeline, and we'll come back to this because after I reported about it, they actually deleted all of the interesting information, but I have screen captures of it all, so we'll talk about that. But that's what this crew is, and they've taken hold of MIT like nobody's business, and they represent a commercialization that universities just aren't equipped to deal with. They don't know who's in charge. They don't know what they're doing, and they have no accountability for behavior that goes so far beyond the norm of anything they've ever dealt with before. So it's a runaway train with extraordinarily serious consequences.